in the world, and my goodness, they are going to have their work cut out over the next couple of weeks if the forecast is held true. And Rob, I know that it's fair to say that the Sunshine and you are not necessarily happy bedfellows.
No, I am sponsored by the British Lobster Association, and will be turning that colour quite quickly if I continue to stand out here for very much longer. But I have taken the precaution. I do have a cap on.
Good man.
So all is well, Mary. Do not fear. It's all well and good for you, who of course are the chair of the British Mahogany Association.
I don't know what my DNA is and what my lineage is, but I think I have got some sort of European, Southern European blood in me. I do, yes, I do tend to go brown rather than red. But you do paint the most attractive picture, as always, Rob. And if you do actually start to overheat a little, I can give you a tip. When I was here yesterday having a wander around and just drinking in the Wimbledon air, the day before the championship's always so special. And I walked around the top of the hill, around the back of the Pimm's tent. Now, I'm not recommending that you go and have one of those particular beverages, not when you're on duty. But if you go around the back, there is a most enormous freezer. Ooh. And it's full of ice. And I think, actually, if you open the doors, you could fit in there. So you could always just go and have a little cool-off and climb in there. I'm sure nobody would mind.
I'll head there right now, I reckon.
Right. So if we can't find you, that's where you are. Marvellous. Thanks very much indeed to Rob Nothan. Plenty more from him over the fortnight, and the same can be said of my next two live at Wimbledon Radio pals, Barry Milnes and Arvin Palmer, looking wonderful and very calm, very serene, very cool, very chilled, very together.
The calm before the storm, I guess, day one. What are we in? 15 minutes into the kind of the start of play here. Yeah. Half an hour, should I say, actually, and fantastic, isn't it? I mean, where's the year gone as well, Barry? I mean, I only felt like I was here just a couple of days ago, and we're doing it all over again.
It is amazing, isn't it, how it comes around so quickly. I think quicker and quicker every year.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'll be cool, calm and collected in an hour's time sitting here, but it is an absolute thrill to be up here again.
And I've been told, actually, biologically, that things do go quicker when you get a little bit older as well. So,
it's true.
Yeah.
It's
true. They're going quicker for me than they are for you.
I'm catching you up, though. I'm catching you up.
OK, well, we can go down memory lane in a little bit, but let's deal with the present and go over to Court 18, double-handed wave, to Richard Kaufman, who's in the air-conditioned commentary position for us there. Good morning, Richard.
Oh, yeah, talking about cool. Lovely. I mean, I got to say, I've been rushing around, obviously trying to get to my position in good time on the broadcaster. If I'm perched in the commentary position here in Court 18, and it's a hive of activity around to the left where Court 1 is, some of the outside courts over there as well, like court number 14, and then perched to my right-hand side, about 3 deep crowds trying to get a it's taken them a little while to get through them because the first two serve to the good. This one, if I say the early stages are anything to go by, could be a fairly long one.
Right, well, 18 has a little pedigree in that regard, does it not, Richard?
Yes, it does, but I tell you what, if you are going to be stuck somewhere for a good few hours, this is the place to be.
Especially when you're in an air-conditioned box.
Correct,
definitely.
yes.
This is going to be my first little health tip, actually. Well, it's not a health tip, it's just to remind you, if you are listening to us within the grounds of the championships, because matches are so absorbing and it's very easy just to get lost in what's happening in front of you. It's easy to forget, actually, the ferocity of the sun, because there is a little bit of a breeze blowing today as well to keep you cool. So please do remember to drink plenty of water. I know other beverages are available, but if you can have as much water as the other, that would be great. And a hat and sunscreen as well. And there are plenty of water stations all around the All England Club. So if you've got your own water bottle, do make your way to one of those. You won't be too far from one of them. Right, let's get an update on number 2 court and see how my tip for the title is doing. Maren Cilic and Richard Connolly's there.
Yes, if anybody is listening in the Players' Restaurant, can I ask them to reserve a table for Mr. Cilic for lunch, please? He's won the opening 4 games here against Yoshihito Nishioka of Japan. 2 players who look very much like they ought to be in a different weight division. The 6'6" Cilic rather bullying the 5'7" Japanese at the far end of court. Cilic began with a 124 miles per hour ace down the middle. He won the first 6 points of the match before framing a forehand to an 80 mile per hour second serve. I think he was just astonished that it took so long to get there. At in the third game, Cilic was taken to juice by Nishioka, who all of a sudden felt energised, at which point Cilic boomed down an ace. Nishioka looked up at his box in frustration. Cilic boomed down another one and then broke him to love in game number 4. This is not going to take long. Indeed, if Nishioka wins a set today here, Mary, on the number 2 court, I shall wear a petunia in my hair for the rest of the championships.
Right.
It's 4-love Cilic and 30-15
Nishioka.
Your colleagues are being very, very mean here. They're looking around, they're scouting around the roof of the broadcast centre thinking, which petunia shall we choose? Not that obviously we would pick any of the flowers here in Wimbledon. No, you don't disturb those flower arrangements. Richard, just to remind people, of course, where you are, it's all very well for Richard Kaufman in his air-conditioned booth, but on number 2 court, of course, it's open, isn't it, the commentary position? You snuggled in next to a camera person.
Yes, 2 of the world's finest camera operators are just to my right here, filming the pictures that are being beamed around the world from the number 2 court. At the front of the box is open for that reason, so that the cameras can push through and get the clearest possible picture, but I am tucked in the shade at the back of the box, so for me it's fine. For everybody else on the number 2 court, the sun is beating down and most have headgear and sun cream in good measure.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Nishioka's got a break point.
Oh,
hang on.
Petunia time is getting closer.
What?
30-40.
He heard you.
Come on, Marion, for goodness sake.
Right, are we going to stick with you for this?
Well, if you'd like to, let's. This is the kind of situation at which Cilic already today has shown himself very adept at whacking down a thunderous ace. Nishioka is preparing to return serve from next to the line judge and watches as it whistles past his left ear. There's the break point saved. We're back at juice, Mary.
Ah, there we go. The petunias are safe for a little while yet. Do get in touch with us here on the Wimbledon radio channel. At Wimbledon CHNL is our Twitter handle. And Mary Benton, hello to you. Lovely to hear from you. Getting in touch from a cold and rainy Sydney. I almost feel sorry for you. Almost, Mary. It's lovely to have your company. And thank you for your message. Great to hear you and the team again, Mary. And it's great to have you with us. Hope that you can stick with us throughout the whole fortnight as well. So we've heard a little bit from Barry and Arvin, but not an awful lot. So I think it's time that we catch up with them, find out their highlight of the year before we go on, and we'll go right into the nitty-gritty. And I want a couple of names from you for the title. So particular highlight from you the last 12 months, Barry?
I think watching Simona Halep become a Grand Slam champion in Paris, that was a superb effort. She's obviously been a player who, when she first started, you thought, well, perhaps not thinking that she would rise to the level she has, but then to become, with great grit and determination, world number 1, and yet one of those that gets labelled where you've never won a slam kind of thing. And that's a huge, huge pressure, and she's been close to it. But with Darren Cahill and others supporting her, she's great to deal with off court as well as on it. She's a lovely person and just competes so hard and tries so valiantly all the time. And to see that effort finally rewarded, for me, that's really stood out this year.
Yeah, and for you, Arvin?
Yeah, well, I cover a lot of men's tennis throughout the course of the year, and having watched tennis for so long now. The mind-boggling numbers that Nadal keeps posting on clay. Again, this clay court season, it was just his intensity was just unmatched. I mean, I don't know how he keeps it up and how he's done it for so many years, but it's as if kind of he's doing it for the first time every time you watch him do that, on the clay. I think the energy levels, okay, here we go, another year, another clay court season, and there's no sign of any sort of fatigue when it comes to that. He's so comfortable on the surface, and winning his 11th Roland Garros was just phenomenal again. I mean, the level that he keeps on bringing, and he's still hungry to do so well there, and still looking to make improvements. Coming here, Wimbledon, he's got real aspirations of winning here again. And that he's been away, he's had some time off, but he's got himself on the grass. He's been playing some exhibition matches. He was down in Mallorca practicing on the grass there when the women's event was on there. Had some practice there, and he's come here early as well. And I tell you what, if he gets himself to the second week, I think there's a real possibility that he could go on and win this. Conditions here change a lot second week as far as the surface is concerned,
especially with the sun, with the intensity of the heat of the sun.
Yeah, the court's going to be baked. It's going to be hard. It's going to be playing more like a bouncy hard court at times. It's first week where things difficult for him. He comes across a big server, the ball starts skidding through, and players actually come with a better game plan against him on the grass as well. They know they've got to serve big and look to get into that forehand side and get some errors, but get through the first week, he's going to be one of the favourites.
Yes, and that's what we keep saying, isn't it? We've been saying this now for a few years. You go back, it's 2011, I think, the last time he got beyond the round of 16 here, and he's had some, shock losses in that first week. So that is absolutely key for him to do so, bearing in mind that prior to that, he'd been in the final nearly every year and won it 2 times. And it's, for me, it's one of the big questions. I'd love to see him play great again here, and because when he's on song on grass as well as on clay, look out.
Yeah, and I thought he was actually perhaps this year going to start mixing things up on the grass, and maybe a thought of giving the grass a bit of a miss, because it seems like, after such a tough clay court season, winning so many matches, almost doesn't have enough time to recuperate and feel fresh again, and on the grass he's a little bit more vulnerable. He's talked about how physically how it's quite challenging on the grass as well, changing balls to a heavier Slazenger ball, and on the grass it's tough on his body's knees, wrists, etc. So I wouldn't have been surprised at all if he gave the grass court season a miss, but he took time off, extra time off. He was supposed to play Queens, wasn't he? But it felt like he wasn't ready. So coming in and playing one tournament on the grass, and it's the biggest tournament in the world on grass, it's quite tough, isn't it? 5 sets, it's not the easiest thing. So I think the first couple of rounds are going to be fascinating to see how he's playing. OK,
we're going to return and get your predictions in just a moment, but let's pay a visit to Peter Marcato, who's on number 3 for us. And Sam Querrey, how's he getting on number 3?
He's got 3 set points here, 5-2 in this opening set after 22 minutes, and he serves another ace down the tee. And he's been rarely troubled in that opening set. He saved a couple of break points in the second game of the match, but since then he's been able to take control of it. 6-2 against the Australian Jordan Thompson, who struggled a little bit to adjust to the windy conditions, the swirly breeze here on the number 3 court, and then also the position of the sun as well. So he's broken a couple of times. Querrey looking particularly good here, Mary. 6-2 in the bright sunshine on the number 3 court.
Great, thank you very much indeed to Peter on number 3. So, predictions, Barry, Arvind.
On the men's side, I'm going to stick my neck out, and I'm going to go with a man who has won it 3 times before, but is coming back, of course, from the elbow problem he's had, is Novak Djokovic. I think I've seen enough now to feel, yes, he could do this here again. He could get right through and, be certainly tilting for that title come the end of it. I just think that we've seen him come back initially sort of falteringly, not sure, testing the water, as it were, seeing how the injury was, taking some time off, coming back on the clay, making some improvements there, certainly in Madrid and in Rome he played some, and then of course at the French as well. Lost out to Cecchinato there and was bitterly disappointed, but then also to see him play as well as he did on the grass and, get to championship point at Queens. That to me, okay, you say, well, he didn't get over that hurdle of actually winning the title, and would that have meant more to him having done so? I think, the tennis he played up to that point was hugely good, and there was plenty of it after that point as well. But Cilic obviously is playing some, I think, the best I've seen Cilic play actually. But I'm going to, because Novak has done it here so often, and I think he's making strides. He is getting there, and I could see him doing it again.
How's the draw looking for him?
Well, the draw has him up against Tennis Sangren, the American, at the start. He's in the bottom half of the draw. I mean, you look at Rogers, obviously Roger comes in as favourite with all that he's achieved. But, should we read too much into the Coric match that he lost in Halle, bearing in mind he played all the matches? He'd won Stuttgart, he nearly won that one as well. But he had some struggles along the way. He perhaps didn't look, as relaxed, as comfortable as he can do. I think movement will be an absolute key, seeing how well he is moving. He's got so many big servers, hasn't he, in the top half of the draw. I mean, you've got Karlovic, you've got Querrey, you've got Raonic, you've got Cilic, Anderson. He's well, if you can return against that lot,
that is a catalogue.
Yeah. But I tell you, the other person I would pick out, because I think nobody would want to play him, is Kyrgios. I think his he's got it in him, tennis-wise, to do it, because if he can sustain it, that's the big question mark. He's had some big wins here, beat Nadal, he's beaten Raonic here.
But stringing them together.
But you look at the serving of at Queen's, those back-to-back matches when he served 32 aces in successive matches. The first time he did it in 3 sets, the second time he did it in 2 sets. You know, that kind of day, and then he's a magician. If he's really switched on it, it's all about focus with him and keeping his mind on track. And if you can do that, then, you know, look out. So who's he playing first round? Dennis Istomin. Well, if Istomin wins, and Istomin's caused an upset or two in majors.
That's the thing that you love about these matchups, that you never know with Kyrgios. I mean, he could blow Istomin away in three straight sets, but Istomin, he's a quality grass court player. He's won a title on the grass, so if he kind of hangs in there and frustrates Kyrgios, gets under his skin and gets a few serves back and holds his own, then there's no reason why Istomin can win that in 4 sets. But that's the unpredictability of Kyrgios, and which so many interesting insights into how he's thinking throughout the course of the year with Kyrgios.
Exactly that. I was worried a couple of years ago because of, obviously, he got himself in trouble on more than one occasion with certain things that he did on court. And he's still misbehaving at times, as we know. He did something at Queen's which he got heavily fined for. But overall, I was worried then that he might be hounded out of the sport. That there was such a sort of backlash against him, and in the days, you know, these days of social media, it's so much greater, the intensity of that kind of, you know, microscopic view we have on these players, and we dissect them, you know, point by point, moment by moment. But I think with Leighton Hewitt on his side, you know, mentoring him somewhat, he was there, he's been playing doubles with him, you know, at Queen's, and I think that's a great influence. Because Leighton, you know, absolutely demands sort of respect and the very best.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, actually, because having covered Queen's and watching Leighton Hewitt's reactions kind of at the antics from Kyrgios, it's just so funny because he's got this look on his face like, what was that? That's not computing with me. I'm not understanding what's going on here. You know, unless it's 110% effort coming from you, I can't really relate to what you're doing. But I think with Hewitt, I think it's about keeping Nick relaxed and happy and comfortable about his surroundings.
He's growing up, you know. Okay, he's not, you know, he's got a long way to go perhaps in that, but don't we all? You know, it's just what happens. Agassi at that age, there were so many similarities in the way he carried on, I felt. And he had this incredible talent, but he was, you know, he managed to find a way through, and he had his bad moments, but obviously he ended up being one of the all-time greats and a brilliant sort of speaker about the sport, very sort of philosophical in his view. I'm not saying Kyrgios necessarily will be that in the future, but I think his tennis will ultimately do more talking than he does.
Right, interesting. Okay, well, we could talk about Kyrgios all day, and I'm sure there are plenty of other people on the team who'd like to chip in. But there are plenty of matches underway, of course, because they started just after 11:30, so most of them been going about sort of half an hour. On the outside courts, of course, play on centre and number 1 gets underway at 1 o'clock. So let's find out how we're getting on Petunia Gate out on number 2 court, because Richard Connolly rather bravely said if Nishioka could take a set from Cilic, he would wear a petunia in his hair, not just for one day, but for the rest of the championship. So how are we looking with the headgear?
Well, Marin Cilic has set point and kicks the serve out wide, and Nishioka can't make the return. So that's the applause for Marin Cilic winning the opening set after 27 minutes of play by 6-1. Things really aren't going the Japanese player's way at all, to the extent that when you were last with me, he'd had one break point and missed it when Cilic boomed the ace past his ear hole. He had another break point in that game, and Cilic, who towers over him by a good 11 inches, got a dead net cord. So the Japanese player, who is playing here off a protected ranking because he suffered a serious injury in March of last year in Miami. He was in the top 60 in the world at the time, so he's a decent player, but he's using that protected ranking here at Wimbledon in the hope maybe of a good draw, win a couple of matches, some valuable ranking points, and he can
Given the fact you want to break down early, it's a lot easier in players in that situation where you're playing a high-ranked player, top 10 player, how it ranked 171 in the world, to sort of go away mentally and not really believe that you belong out here. And she's really stuck to her game, and as I was saying earlier, a lot of the games have been very, very close. A lot of juice games, a lot of them not going her way, but she's really stuck at it, and she's still hanging in this game at 40-15. But just the general way she's playing aggressively. She's trying to make Plisk of her serving. You want to hang with me to hear out this game?
Yep, sure.
Well, the return's just gone out, so Harriet wasn't able to convert that one. So we actually have gone into